Welcome to Surfside Stories. I am so happy today to have here in the studio with me one of the men that has been an influence in a lot of different areas. But in beach music, he is a master of what he does on stage. He is the master of what he does off stage. He's a master in the studio. And the man also has a life that we want to hear about that most of you would not know about. And I would not know had I not shared some time with him. In and out of music and in and out of other lifestyles that are absolutely phenomenal. A couple songs we want to hear about, but at this point, Mr. James Michael Brown with the Entertainers is here in the studio with us. Mike, these people like to know, I'm sure, they know who you are now. Let's tell them who you were, how you got into music, your time in music, your time out, and then have back in music. Oh, it's a great story. Let's tell them about it. They want to hear this.
And a long story.
That's why we're here, brother.
Well, first of all, I appreciate you having me on the show, Wayne.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure and an honor to be here. That's right, Entertainers tonight at the Galleon, by the way. But anyway, starting, that goes way back. Actually, I started playing music, sixth grade, like a lot of us did, playing trumpet in the school band. I actually started out as a drummer, but my brother played drums, George Brown, so I had to go to trumpet. My dad liked the trumpet, Harry James. So then it moved pretty quick, though. I took to the trumpet pretty well, and so we, about 65, 66, the XLs was the first group that I actually played with. And by the way, that was Earl Dawkins was in it. And that band had been around with Hit Attractions for a good while, so I was the low guy on the totem pole. They couldn't find a trumpet player at the time, so I just let Mike try to play some. I think he can cut a few songs. So Billy Dawkins was Earl's cousin, and there were some really good players in that group. Really good players. And Bobby Donaldson played guitar. He was in Breeze Band, and played with everybody. Bobby's with John Prine. Big acts. We played together in a lot of bands. So that's when we first started in 65, 66. I was in the seventh grade. So playing frat parties in the seventh grade when you're 13 and 14 years old.
That had to be an experience.
It was an experience. We were with Hit Attractions. Ralph Farmer was the manager. And I lived a Jekyll and Hyde world with going to junior high school in seventh grade and then coming back after playing a frat party, So we were way underage, obviously, with drinking. So, it was quite an experience.
Oh, I can only imagine. So where'd you go from there?
Well, stayed there for about a year and a half. 67 rather. Earl left and went with the Aqualads. Now that was a really big band at that time, backup band for Hit Attractions. Once again, they were backing up everybody: Spider Turner, Benny King, Major Lance, all these players, all these singers. They didn't have groups because they had groups like us come in to back them up, which were everybody: Delmonico's, Gene Barber and the Cavaliers, everybody, And so Earl went to the Aqualads, and I followed him because their trumpet player went to University of Virginia, so he was gone. So once again, Ralph actually had that group too, and he said, "We're going to just put Mike in there till we find somebody." That seems to be my story. But I got better. They had a sax player, which everybody knows on the circuit, Gerald Smith.
Yeah.
Gerald was a phenomenal sax player. He's 3 or 4 years older than me, maybe 5. And so he was already playing big time stuff. They were backing up big people. So basically, practice, get better, do all this kind of stuff. So then it really started hitting. We had a group, the Chantels were with us, Debbie Newton and Vicky Skinner. So that went real well. And they had a bus. So that was really a big jump at that time.
So how often were you playing? How many nights a week or a month?
Well,
in those days,
we actually were playing. We'd get out of school, and they would pick us up there, and we'd go to the airport sometimes to get on a private aircraft and fly to the gig. They'd take us to the gig, so we didn't get out of school on Fridays till 3, or we'd get on the bus. and go with them.
Yeah.
We were playing like Lexington, Kentucky, University of Kentucky,
Yeah.
UVA, stuff like that.
Wow. Big
And
schools.
yeah, exactly. Big school, big events, and backing up people. We backed up BJ Thomas at on Folly Beach on the pier.
Really?
I'll never forget. First time I ever heard sitting on the dock of the bay. I was actually on that pier, and I was sitting on the bench just swinging my feet, and that song came on. I just loved it. That night we backed him up. The Aqualades did.
Yeah.
So yeah, that band just.
So how long
was a
were
real
you
big-
with the Aqualades?
We did that 67, 68. Okay, now I was in the ninth grade, 68. We actually toured with them and backed them up through Boston, the Combat Zone, the Downtown Lounge,
Okay.
all that stuff up through there. And we had draft cards, fake draft cards, and they wouldn't let us go party. Earl was slightly older than me, but the ones of us who weren't over 18, we couldn't go. So they had us in a Thin Dome Hotel, and they supplied us with liquor, and we could party up there, whatever.
Yeah.
So we played up there. And that was with Bill Pinckney and the original Drifters. We backed them up, and we just that band traveled everywhere. It was a real experience. And Gerald was Spanky, they called him, but I always called him Gerald, Mr. Gerald.
Mr. Gerald.
He was a harsh taskmaster because, you have to get better. You have to get better. He really made me the player that I became, being able to operate on a higher level than,
Oh, that's awesome to have a mentor like that.
I had a great mentor. He was harsh. He cracked the whip on you. It was Gerald, and Daryl Hurley was another horn player, and myself. So at first they were going to hold me till they found another player, but they never did. And finally I got where I could cut it.
That's awesome. But they didn't have to find somebody to replace you then.
No. And we played everywhere. We played, like you said, we played the whole Southeast. We played Montgomery, Alabama. We go down there, Atlanta, of course, the Georgia Tech, all the universities, Emory, UVA, Duke, all the universities, USC at the Quad. There's so many stories. It's unbelievable.
Wow, that is.
Just
Yeah. Where'd you go from there?
we were hammering it every weekend.
Yeah.
I don't see how I was able to, but our parents let us do it.
So where'd you go from there? What came along next?
Aqualades. From the Aqualades, we went to, I believe it was the Premiers, but very shortly after that, we got on with the Rivieras. And now, that group didn't do a whole lot of backup activity, but they were a real, like up with the Catalinas and stuff.
Okay.
Big old Bob Meyer and all
Yep.
that. So that was a real step up with the Rivieras. And of course, Earl and I are following each other the whole time.
Was it planned that way or just happened?
No, it just happened that way.
Okay.
Bobby Donaldson too.
Yeah.
Bobby Donaldson that's how we all started. And Charlotte group. Then now we're playing shows at Park Center with some of the Motown groups play on the same show. We're
Yeah.
not backing them up, but playing on the same show. And that's where we went from there. It was wonderful, but like I said, it was a Jekyll and Hyde life because we were in school, and at the same time we're playing this music, having this music experience with these national acts.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now where did you go? What was your next step along the way?
I got one story about that.
Yeah, please. Oh, yeah.
People never, you couldn't tell them what you were doing. If we played Benny King last night, we played with Arthur Conley or whatever,
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff. My homeroom teacher, Betty Jo Steele, bless her heart, she's not here anymore, but Garage High School in Charlotte. I was in homeroom now, this is 69. We backed up BJ Thomas out there at the pier at Folly Beach. And my head was on the desk as we got in from somewhere. That was just one of the shows we played. And she said, what do you do at night, Mike, to come in here, you're wore out on Monday morning? And I said, well, I played with BJ Thomas last night. He had Hooked on a Feeling. And she just went, yeah, or, didn't really believe it. She called my mother.
Yeah.
She called my mother and asked her. My mother said, Well, he played with this guy, B.J. Thomas. She liked, she was with Harry James
Yeah.
and Duke Ellington, that they are our
Yeah.
parents. And the next day, this was like a Tuesday, so finally about Wednesday, I guess. I came into homeroom and she was all over me. Mike, you got to be with Fred Mindy. That was the school band director. I hadn't even communicated with him. You know, all that kind
Didn't
of
cross your mind,
Maddox,
too.
excuse me, Maddox was a guarantor.
Yeah.
And because we weren't playing in the school bands, we were playing on the road. By the time that happened, we'd already been playing 3 years. And when you're young like that, your ascent of performance is almost vertical
Yes.
because you live it. Hey, I got to get better. I'm tired of getting chewed out by Gerald. Yeah, that was
That's-
that was that
That's
happened
been
all
all-
the time. You really couldn't bring it up around a lot of your friends because they were just like normal kids, and we weren't. We were in a different world.
Trust me, I understand that more than you realize.
It
We'll have
affected
that
me
conversation
my
later.
whole life.
Yeah, we'll have that conversation later. Okay, so where are we now? We're
We said Rivieras.
okay, and what?
That was now we've talked about 3 going on 4 years now. We changed the Rivieras to Sugar Creek, a rock and roll band. And
You're talking about Rick Lee and
Rick
Jerry
Lee, yeah, we
West
took
and Tim
Larry
Clark.
Larry Farber was with we were already playing, we were up there, in that same box with everybody else, the Catalinas and everybody. We weren't as good as them, but we were in that higher tier group.
Yeah.
But what happened was Larry Farber, which was in the group, he was our keyboard player. He's, part owner of Hit Attractions. Great guy.
Yeah.
Love Larry. He has the jazz club in Charlotte now.
Okay, yeah.
And anyway, Larry quit. And we were, about that time, Chicago was out and Crosby, Stills and Nash, and things were changing.
Okay.
When we were in '68 in Boston, we saw the hippie movement in the Boston Commons when we were going from the downtown lounge, walking through the park to our hotel, smoking pot, everything. We couldn't believe it. To us, that was like heroin then.
Yeah.
But we'd go through the park and they had rock and roll bands out there. I'll never forget sitting there with Larry Barber, and we were sitting there going, God, I hope this music never hits down south, because we Jackie Wilson and everything. At the time, we didn't really appreciate it or know what it was.
It was
So
new.
yeah, that was on the way. So, but anyway, they wanted to. By the time 1970 hit, it was really coming into this area. I mean, we were listening to Vanilla Fudge and all this kind of stuff, but we really didn't get it hard culturally until about 1970. 69 people were still listening to Marvin Gaye,
Yeah.
Tammy Terrell, all this kind of stuff. Lonely Drifter. That era was kind of coming to an end. Music. We didn't call it beach music at all. It was rhythm and blues.
Tell me something. What is beach music? Since you brought that up, what is beach music?
I never could figure it out because we played R&B, Jackie Wilson, the Temps, James Brown, everything. We just called it soul music. It's what we call it. When I first heard that term around 75, before we get back to the other part here,
That's fine.
it's just the same stuff we've been doing, but played down at the beach. And there's some new groups like Band of Oz, and they got a few songs, but it's not really heavy R&B. It's just something else. So, that's what we thought about it.
So it just kind
We
of
had 2 eras. We played
slid
2.
onto the scene then.
Yeah, because the mid '60s R&B era was different than the rock era that started about '69 or '70. Sure, there were some rock groups out there playing rock, but they weren't playing the Pavilion, the Pad, Fat Harold's, all this kind of stuff. They weren't playing. We were playing these shows. The Mark V Club, the Pavilions, the Folly Beach, all these fraternities. Not many of them were doing it, but.
So what did you do with Sugar Creek? You mentioned you
Sugar Creek, what happened there was we needed to change because the times were changing. 1970 hit. And so we hired Rick Lee on keyboards because he, first of all, great guy. I love Rick. Man, we're still like brothers. He had a Hammond organ. We needed a Hammond organ. And we changed the name, started learning some new songs, Led Zeppelin, Chicago, songs like that. We still could play any of the R&B stuff, most of the R&B stuff, but and then that band exploded in popularity. We didn't know how to handle it. It just went, and we would play a club, and down the street, around the building, there would be, 1,500, 2,000 people trying to get in a club like the Cellar that hold, what, 200 or something?
They played a lot of times here at the beach. They played the Bowery
Yeah,
quite often, didn't
that
they?
was yeah, we did play down here, but that was a little bit later.
Okay.
The first version, Earl actually played drums in that band. We had another singer. He was a singer, but he played drums. He was a great drummer, by the way. And
Did not even know Earl played the drums.
oh,
Yeah, that's interesting.
he should have stayed on the drums. He was that good.
Really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just learned
People,
something new.
a lot of us in the know say,
A lot
Earl
of people,
started.
I guarantee, did not know that. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead. Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm learning. Keep
well,
it going.
Greg Cagle was the bass player. Bobby Donaldson on the guitar again. It was a great band. Sonny Joyner was with us. He played trumpet. I played trumpet. Now we still were playing some gigs with. At that time, early on, we had to play on some shows with like Mel and Tim and the Intruders, people like that. That was when we were making the transition. We could still play on the same show as the Rivieras.
Yeah.
Then we hard hit changing to Sugar Creek, and then that's when it started. We were able to play
When it
those shows.
exploded. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when it went up on us. But that was a great time, just a wonderful time.
Oh, that sounds awesome. That was an era which sometimes people were transitioning with the music just as you say it was internally what you were playing, what they were listening to was transitioning. I think.
Yeah, I'll never forget. In the Rivieras, we were playing NC State. There was a frat house right on the edge of Raleigh. It looked like Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
Giant frat house on the northeast side. And we went there to play the show down in the frat house downstairs. And the rooms were just blazing with Chicago. And Tony Carr, no, he was with the other group, another band. Sometimes they sort of intermingle with each other.
Yeah.
But anyway, we said, we have got to learn some of this stuff. And that's where we started. But you begin to hear that genre of music. Everybody had already listened to Vanilla Fudge and the Byrds and With Everything Turn, Turn, Turn. Well, all that, the Letterman, all that stuff. But nobody was really playing that stuff because it wasn't easy to play to start with.
Really?
Chicago. That was pretty tough music to actually pull it off.
A very strong horn section.
Yeah, and the chord structure, you really had to know. But by that time, everybody in the group, they were real musicians, and we could pull that stuff off if that was our aiming point.
Yeah.
Because we actually practiced back then.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, long practice.
Yeah. Good to know.
Yeah, Sugar Creek. And then they started knocking on our door, the Catalinas and other groups, trying to cherry pick, because they wanted some of what Sugar Creek had.
Yeah.
Well, Donaldson and I, we fell for it. And the Catalinas were pretty much intact at that time. And I want to say something about that group. Nobody was sounded like the Catalinas or Bill Deal at that time. I even think the Catalinas had a better sound. They were a national act.
Yeah.
A real national act. Musically, with the Barker brothers and Rob Thorne on drums and Sidney Smith, these guys were like 5-6 years older than us. They were in their 25 or something. And they were a fabulous group. Well, Gary Barker asked Bobby Donaldson and I if we'd come and help them start, in that direction some.
Yeah.
This was in 71, late 71. So Donaldson and I left, and I never had as much fun again because it was just a different kind of atmosphere.
Yeah.
But I took Jack Stallings' place, which Jack had Stallings Entertainment later on.
Yeah.
With everything, but Jack was the original. We were taking original members' places.
Okay.
Yeah, but Bobby was, the Catalinas were with a extra guitar player. We added because we had to do whip and post and some of the Allman Brothers kind of stuff. So he and Gary played together.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, and So we were playing some Ray Charles. It was just a different kind of Catalinas, but boy, I tell you what, nobody could rip off the Four Tops and Jackie Wilson. I mean, when they started the song, it was like a bomb going off. It just, you know,
Explosion.
yeah. It was just they were great.
Yeah, they were, I actually had one year had the Rivieras for my senior prom. And
What
next
year was that?
64.
64. Yeah, they've been around since
And then I had
like 60, I
and then
think.
the year after we had the Catalinas,
Yep.
65, or it might have been reversed 60.
Right.
But we had those two years. I got to go to more than one senior prom by chance.
Yeah.
But they were hot back then. They were great. They did such great shows,
Oh yeah, it was great. They had a bus. We played big shows. It wasn't as fun because they still retained the Catalina, set lists more or less, and we threw in some rock music, but it was a different kind of atmosphere. Wasn't uh, as fun. We were.
And word from the Catalinas, where'd you go? How long were you with them?
I wasn't with them for very long, about 8 months,
Okay.
and then Uncle Sam.
Well, tell me that story.
that.
I want to hear a little bit about Uncle Sam.
Oh man.
We're both veterans and we're brothers in our
Yeah.
military. We were different places.
Yeah. You actually were in Vietnam.
Yes, I was.
I was assigned to go to play coup, but they
Which
pulled
is
out
where I
the
was
first
stationed.
yeah, where you were stationed. We talked about that. That's a wonderful thing. The First Signal Brigade had been taken out of Vietnam, and the guys that had less than 6 months in time in country had to go to Korea, and the ones that had more than 6 months were able to go back to the world. So it was still
okay.
everything was still standing down.
Yeah.
They had some big fights in '72.
They did.
And Locke, some heavy fighting. But I was an air traffic controller. My ticket was obviously in Fort Rucker. I was in
Okay.
aviation.
Yeah.
So I would have been on the base, maybe a rocket attack or something, but not like what you guys out in the field actually doing some real fighting. But they sent me to Korea. And so I was there for a tour at the time.
So, did you enjoy military?
Yeah, it set me up for the rest of my life. in
That was my
aviation.
question. What did you learn from the military that took you forward?
Be on time.
Okay. That you must do.
No, you learn your craft. Of course, I'll tell you something. What got me through ATC school was very tough. Had playing music. It developed my memory. I could memorize stuff just about anything, and it stayed with me because of that. Because we couldn't, we wouldn't let you read. So that's what got me through the aviation school and started me on the road. I always wanted to fly, so I learned to fly in the Army. And so I had a fabulous time. I came back to
So you're 3 years, is it?
3 years. Yeah, I had to I had to go in for 3.
Okay.
So I was an RA. When we were in training at Fort Polk, the draftees were treated pretty good, but the RAs, you maggots, you join, you love this stuff, And so they treated us a little more harshly. We were RAs.
I thought you were lifers.
Yeah. What you thinking, Brown? You're a maggot.
I was talking with the words you go when you got your discharge.
Well, at the end of my tour, I came back to Fort Bragg and Simmons Army Airfield. And my buddy, Fred Griffin, and I were on inter-service transfers. They wanted us to re-up as ATC.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we'll give you flight school if you want it, And I said, yeah, I'm going one way or the other. We already had our license. We had the ATC, all the certificates and everything. We were rated. And said, well, we don't want to stay in the Army. We want to go Air Force. So we did it. We were on an inter-service transfer, took the test and stuff like that. But we had to go back to Fort Bragg because neither one of us at that time had a degree. But they gave us 80 plus hours of credit because we had already met the civilian requirements for flying and air traffic control,
Yeah, okay.
all this kind of stuff. So we had taken the test there with the Air Force, and we had to take some of the social, some of the math, some of the English, all that kind of stuff. It was going to take us about 8 months for the transition. I got hit by a car on a motorcycle. And I thought that was it. You know, there goes my flying career. Because I had to stay in Womack Army Hospital basically almost a year in and out and recover from a left leg, it broke my left leg.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to say that this is one thing I have to say. Sometimes the Lord will send something your way that's very harsh and seems like the end of the world. And it's actually a gift in disguise.
You're so totally correct.
This was, when I said that's it for my flying career, and I always wanted to be a pilot, that made my flying career. I think the Lord and all, they were laughing when I said, Griffin was in it. That's it for me. You can go on. He actually finished and he went on. I met him in Corregidor. Not Corregidor, but Manila, the Philippines, Clark Air Base later. When I was flying, by the way, he was flying in helos, and I was already flying, big planes, jets. So, but anyway,
I gotta reinforce that, and I've heard this so much, especially in the beach music family in the world. The Lord works in mysterious ways to get you to where He wants and needs you to be.
Right. I was an instructor. I ended up as an instructor in ATC, but that was a huge thing, because what it did, it put me in civilian aviation when I got out, which is, I had a way bigger world. I would have went TAC fighters and ended up at some air base somewhere, just in a squadron, whatever. But that put me in real aviation and airlines. And I got to fly world leaders. I got to fly, teach.
So
director training.
When you were discharged, you stayed into flying then, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, when I first got out, for about the first 6 months, I went and sat in with Hot Smoking Brass.
Okay.
Yeah, my buddy, because my leg was still healing. I had an open wound on my left leg.
Okay.
And Mike Stevens got me into the band. This was in '75. And
Where
we
were
played
they?
the Hotel Roanoke, all these places.
Where were they out of?
Well, I don't
Their
know.
home, so to speak.
Paul Scoggins, which had was big, the club, all the big clubs around Charlotte. Paul had Hot Smoking Brass and Jackie Wilson. So we played some with Jackie Wilson, all the skinny legs contests and all that stuff, backing him up. And then they had been big. The other Hot Smoking Brass, we were the second version of it. The original version, they played with all those guys. They were great. That's the one Gerald was with, Gerald Smith.
Yes. Okay.
But anyway, I played a few months with them and came back, and then went into aviation, as a flight instructor.
Okay, that is awesome. Well, listen, you're not gonna believe this, but we've already filled up part 1 of First in Flight. And I'm gonna call this one First in Flight. I just think it'd be a great name for you. I mean, you were flying either with the bands or flying with the military. I mean, you were, and I know there's more to come, but that's going to be in part 2. Folks, appreciate you being with us today with Surfside Stories. We will have part 2, and we'll pick up exactly where we ended, and you look forward to that one also. Thanks to everyone for being here. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.